Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Educate 360. Welcome to today's webinar, What is Program Management and the PgMP Certification, presented by Managing Director at Developy, Seamus Collins. We are in Zoom for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A portion after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. I will now hand it over to you, Seamus.
All right, thank you, Mariella. Hello, everybody. I'm Seamus, and I'm going to talk you through this topic today. And I'll answer any questions you have as well. And I spent a lot of days answering these questions at companies. So we pick our webinars then based on, okay, what are people asking about out there? And this topic of program management comes up again and again. And sometimes it's coming up maybe from people that, you ask them what they do at work, and they say, I'm a program manager. And you say, oh, are you? And they explain their job, and you say, it's not a program manager what you're doing, or maybe it is. So you start off with maybe some definitions, and that's why I want to be very clear about what is program management and what does it entail. And then, what's under that? What are the modules? What type of skills does a program manager need to have, and why they need to have them? And then I just talk you through the process of getting that certification, or maybe just going on that course and getting that skill set. Because sometimes the people I've met them many times in my life. Maybe I met them when they were doing something like PM Essentials with us initially. Might have met them a few years later. They did their PMP, and now 3-4 years later, again they're back and they're saying, "Seamus, I'm moving along nicely on this career ladder. What's next?" And we talked to them about portfolio management. We talked to them about program management to just clarify, what exactly is involved. And that's what today's session really is about: is to explain to you really what is program management and answer some of these questions that people have around the topic. Okay, so maybe it whets your appetite as well as to what it is and maybe why you should be thinking about this if your career is in this space. So the first thing I'd always do is define program management. And you can see here the definition from the standard for program management. So the same as many of you would be familiar with the PMBOK for project managers, the project management body of knowledge, there's a program management body of knowledge, or what they call it the standard for program management. And again, that's really on its 4th edition at the moment, but it gives a great definition. And it says here, a program is not just a big project. That's what some people think. Oh, if I have a big project, I'm just going to call that, I must be a program manager. Or some people say I'm an advanced program manager or senior program manager. I say, hang on a second now. What is a program? A program, you can see here, is a group of related projects managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits not available from managing them individually. Now, we just dissect that for a moment and think about it. I could have a lot of projects, and if they're not connected in some way to bring additional benefit, well, they're just individual projects, as part of some sort of portfolio. The whole idea of a program, though, is you could have a number of projects, and let's say I have 3 projects, but if one of them fails or one of them doesn't deliver, well, then the other 2 are totally useless, maybe, or the benefit I get is not the benefit I could have got if I had all 3 parts. And the simple example I would often give people is I might say, well, let's say I have some strategic objective to make, electric cars common on the road in a particular country. And I would say, well, I need to make the cars, I need to get a recharging infrastructure in place, and I need to get a government tax break or benefit in kind. There's 3 things that need to happen. If I get the cars and the charging stations without the benefit or tax break, well, maybe people aren't going to buy them. If I get the tax break and the cars and I have no recharging infrastructure, people are going to have range anxiety and they're not going to buy them. So the whole idea is that if I get all 3 things to be successful, I could achieve my strategic objective. And that's what a program is that this idea of that the projects are related. And again, it's not just related because they're the same people doing them. It's not about resources. There's some other glue holding them together. And the real thing is, by managing these, we can get a benefit. Now, some programs are, I would say, strategic in that you come up with the program of work. You come up with all these projects and say, okay, all these projects glued together are a program. They're going to deliver some benefit that we wouldn't have got if we just let them all be managed by project managers individually. Some programs, though, are what we call emergent programs. Emergent is you're looking at your portfolio, maybe at a review or something, and you're saying, okay, if projects 1, 3, 4, and 8, if all of those don't happen, we have nothing. So you might grab those 4 projects, put them together as a program, and say that's an emergent program. We see now that there's a benefit to managing those as a program, because we got to make sure all 4 of those pillars succeed. Okay. And I suppose that's what you're trying to get at, really, is that some people try and manage a program with project management skills. Okay. So they're just a very busy project manager running around trying to manage all these different projects that are happening in their program. But that doesn't work, right? Because the program manager is really trying to look at this word here, this idea of benefit. And this is where you get an insight now into it, that if you're a project manager and you've been trained in PMP or PMBOK or whatever methodology you've been trained in, you're looking at scope, time, cost, quality, and all those things. And all of those, again, will exist at the program level, right? You need to be able to scope up the program, develop the timeline for it, etc. But you can see here it's different. And if you're just to give you a taste of why it's different, is that yeah, you could probably come up with your critical path analysis and everything else. But if you've got like 5, 6 projects in your program, you could have thousands of lines in your Gantt chart and trying to link it all up. But the people you're talking to at a program level, they're not interested in an 8,000 line Gantt chart. They want a roadmap. So a roadmap is to a program what a schedule is to a project. And those parallels exist through all the modules we present to you, to say, actually, at your level now, yeah, you need a master project. Yeah, but the people you're presenting to probably want a roadmap, right? So, and again, you might have individual project risk registers, but you want a program risk register. And a program risk register is not just everyone's risk all dumped into one super duper risk register. If you think to risk management, which are the ones we should escalate? Which are the ones that are above the pay grade of project managers are now in program? And again, that's the whole mindset that needs to change. So if you try and manage a program with project management tools, you are really, really going to struggle. Okay. Because some of them are applicable and some of them are not going to work at the level you need to operate at. So you start to see new things here. So we're starting to say, well, yeah, we still have scope, time, cost, and all those things, but we're looking at it at a program level. But in addition to that, very often when you're a project manager, someone comes along and gives you a project and says, go off and do that, produce that deliverable, get us that benefit. But when you're a program manager, you're probably operating where you're talking to the C-suite. They're discussing strategy. They're giving you a strategic objective. And from that strategic objective, you're designing a program to bring about that change in the organization. So that you need to understand a bit of strategy if you're a program manager. You can get away with coming up with a smart objective and things if you're a project manager and you don't maybe question the really bigger picture. But if you're a program manager and a program is this a lot of investment, way, way bigger than a project, and it could have serious impacts to the organization, you really need to understand strategy. And so the first module of any of these courses really is bringing you up a level, saying, can you talk to a senior director in your organization where they articulate a strategic objective and you then go off and design the program? So you're not being given the charter at the start and then go off and do that. You're a step behind that. You're what we call program formulation. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. But you need to understand strategy. But it's a very interesting space because someone somewhere has an idea to shift the company in a particular way. But the only way those things move in a particular way is we implement the portfolio of work. And part of that portfolio, it could be a whole program, a whole transformation program for your organization. But unless you understand strategy, you're going to be in trouble. The second big module of any good program management course is that there's a whole module on benefit management. And if you think about it, in many projects, we focus on, the deliverables and they will bring this benefit and how will we measure that. But very often you're kind of in a narrow enough space. But if you're running a big program that has multiple projects and lots of deliverables, we need to keep something like a benefit register, right? So we're going to map out these benefits. We're going to put KPIs on them. We're going to be saying things like, when can we measure them? How can we measure them? Who will measure them? Because you're pumping in a lot more money. So as the projects start to deliver, we need to be able to go to our governance or steering and be able to say, this is actually working, continue the investment. So again, benefit management, benefit realization, benefit measurement is a huge part of program management, given the size, scope, investment, etc., of what's involved. Programs also impact an organization usually in a far bigger way. Sometimes it could be the culture of the organization. Sometimes you could be automating something maybe that was very manual previously, and there's a whole cultural shift in how we do things. There could be outsourcing. There could be a lot of aspects to it. So with programs, very often there's a lot of politics, and with a lot of stakeholders and politics, you really got to up your game in stakeholder management. Sometimes when we're running small projects, we can get away with, progress reporting and meetings as a way nearly of managing stakeholders. No, it's more than that. And you know that, and I know that. And some projects can be very controversial and they do need a lot of stakeholder management. But at a program level, where you could be shutting plants or something like this, there's a lot more politics to be managed. And you need to up your game in terms of senior stakeholder management. Okay. And then the whole idea of governance. How are decisions made on this project? How much rope are we going to give the project teams? And again, if you think about it as a program manager, when you're a project manager, you have a sponsor. Now, as the program manager, you could be the sponsor of the projects within the program. And you need to understand what projects can be part of your program and what projects you should keep out of your program, because your program is there to deliver something. It's not there to become the vehicle to wrap every other sort of crap that's happening in the organization into it as well. So you really got to be very clear on governance from your own point of view as well. Who do you report to? What decisions can you make yourself? What do you have to go to the board for? So a good governance plan is so important that you get that right. So the first thing I want to get across to you there really is that, yeah, we still have a life cycle. We're going to see that in a moment, where the program goes from start to finish. But now we've got these other supporting modules around it. And the last 5 minutes of my conversation there should be starting you thinking, saying, actually, geez, that's interesting stuff. That's where I want to take my career. That's where I want to go. So we start to think about it like this, that really your organization identifies maybe some strategic objective, it identifies some benefits it wants, but they're only player. This was what you're trying to come up with initially. Is we're going to see a concept called a benefits register. The way some of you would understand a risk register, a stakeholder register. In program management, we're zoning in on the benefits, saying we want these benefits. And these benefits could be tangible, intangible, financial, non-financial. And we need to find some way of saying, okay, these are the benefits. Let's not lose sight here of the end goal. That's what often happens at times, and some of us maybe can admit to that, in your career, where sometimes the deliverable and the direction of the project, we lost sight of maybe why we started this bloody thing in the first place. And at the end, the boss says, where are the benefits, Seamus? And you go, they were lost 6 months ago. We just kept on, we got sidetracked here with changes or whatever, or we got, hijacked by stakeholders and they moved the project and the original benefits were lost. And again, that happens, but it shouldn't happen if you have a benefits register saying, hang on a second, let's keep the benefits front and center here. So if you haven't got a benefits register and you're not comfortable with identifying benefits, putting KPIs on the benefits, putting a realization plan in place to say, these are how these benefits are going to be realized, these are how these benefits are going to be transitioned to business, and these are how these benefits then are going to be sustained. And that happens again in many organizations, where they produce something, but over time the organization regresses back because the transition and sustainment plan wasn't really done right. Okay, so program manager has a responsibility to bring about the change and make it stick. Okay, so again, we take the strategic objectives, we produce the benefits. And that's where you're moving up now into a different level. So thinking about your Gantt charts and all that, yeah, they're all great, and you can coach and mentor the project managers under you, but you need to drag yourself up out of the noise and say, I'm here to produce the benefits. I'm here to make sure the governance is correct. I'm here to manage those senior stakeholders. And sometimes to protect ourselves as program managers, we drift back into our comfort zone of trying to manage everything. And then eventually the project managers are saying, well, sure, why don't you just take it all? Because you're just trying to do everything, but you're not doing the job you were hired to do. Okay. So think about it like that. This is the diagram, a good graphic from the PMI on program. And again, just to quickly talk you through this, I'm conscious that we don't have a huge amount of time, but programs at the end of the day are a bit like projects, but I explained the difference already. In projects, we've got the idea of initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, closing. You can see here now, though, what's happening. We have something called program formulation, putting together the program based on some pre-programmed stuff over here, strategies being formulated. You're trying to come up with a program of work now to bring about this. We do our program plan. So a bit like a project management plan, now we have a program management plan, but we have more parts in it because you have everything from your usual scope, time, cost, but you also have a governance plan, you have a benefit realization plan, you have a lot of additional modules in there or chapters in the plan to say, this is how we're going to go and do this. This is the plan. Once we get approval for the plan, we get into this idea of program delivery. You can see here in program delivery, the components is what we call them. They're the projects. You're kicking off these projects. They're getting done. Whatever they're producing, that output and outcome, that's helping us produce our benefit. And as each component gets done, they're done according to our roadmap or cadence or staging of our program. And all those, we're constantly consolidating those benefits and getting them over the line. So in some cases, benefit is realized along the way. In some cases, benefit may not be available until the end of the program. But again, you're there to make sure that, whatever we have and we can get benefit from it, we should be realizing that benefit, because in some cases, your program could be dependent on profits coming from in early benefits being used to fund later components and subsequent phases of the program. But the big part of it as well, though, is proving to the governance board or your steering along the way to saying, actually, the benefit I promised you, I am delivering that benefit, and you should keep investing in this program. But if your components are coming up short, so to speak, you promised some benefit, and the first one over here is not quite, you're getting 50% of what you promised, well, then it's very easy for the steering to look at this and say, is the rest of it going to only produce 50%? Should we stop this? Should we kill it? Should we cut some components? So whereas projects probably have change control to manage we try and maybe limit the amount of change. Very often programs nearly encourage change, in terms of what's changing here. Drop that component, bring this component in. There's new legislation has been, bring that in. So because I suppose programs are longer, we maybe chop and change certain components along the way. Not all the components will be known maybe at the start of the program. Some cases there may be, but life changes, the environment changes around the program as we go along. So components could be added in, components could be taken out. So it's not that just because a project is approved that we're going to do it, or component, that might change. Okay, so again, that's the idea of the program manager. You're looking at the bigger picture, you're looking at the environment, you're looking at, sales figures, you're looking at the bigger picture. You're not head down in old school project management style saying, I'm going to get this over the line. I don't care what's happening outside the front door. Program manager has to have that more worldview really on this. Okay, so that's a great picture just to get you thinking about your program. This is what your standard program management course looks like, where people come in and they say, actually, some people coming on this are people that have done their PMP and they want to get maybe some PDUs, and they say, actually, something, this is the best way of getting them. I'm going to learn some new skill. I'm going to upskill. I'm going to move myself from project manager to program manager, or I'm going to, again, some people might do this. They could be not a project manager, but they want to get into this space, but they don't want to start down at low-level projects. They want to run programs. Okay, So again, start off day one with an overview of program management, what it's all about, some ideas in here about how to define a program. And there's a number of criteria to help you decide, is this a project? Is it a program? What would be the appropriate way of handling this initiative? Big part of day one is strategy then. Getting you comfortable with visions, missions, taking strategic objectives, generating options, scoring them, and trying to design a program that could implement a change. Okay. And that's a big thing for a lot of people, to be able to talk to a senior manager and really get to grips with that. Day two, really getting in now to initiating and planning. And again, if you think about initiating your project, you have probably your charter and your stakeholder registers and things like that. Similar enough in program, but there's a bigger initiative, I suppose, in that you still might have your program charter and program stakeholder register, but you're seeing other documents now, like financial frameworks and stuff like this, as in, where is the money coming from? Is it all coming from you? Is it coming from public funding? Is it coming from private equity? Is it coming from investors? Is it coming from governments? Like, where's the money coming from? So you're sorting out the finances as well in this case. When can they be spent? What can they be spent on? So a lot of finance work up front here. Very often as well in here, putting together that benefits register to say, yeah, these are the benefits we're going after. These are the KPIs we're starting to put on them, etc. We're getting into benefit realization planning, and we're getting into scoping, and we're really making sure now that you're not doing scope just to do scope. You're doing scope to produce a deliverable that's tied to a benefit. So you're really now in your benefits register tagging people's name against deliverables and benefits, saying your project exists to produce this deliverable to give us this benefit, and this is how we're going to measure it. This is when we're going to measure it. This is how we're going to measure it. So you keep that. You're giving that ownership then to your project managers in your program. But it goes down through the modules: scope, time, cost, all those things, procurement, every aspect of the plan. Governance, then huge part of it. What does the governance plan look like? Who's on that governance board? Why are they there? What is the decision-making criteria? What type of stuff will I bring them? What type of stuff, decisions will we make at a local level? And then a short bit on program, execution, monitoring and controlling a program, staging, moving projects around. And a big part of that is resource, reallocation, moving resources around that are scarce to keep the program moving forward. And again, the last part then, closing out the program, wrapping up any infrastructure, giving back funds, doing the lessons learned, all the usual stuff that you might do at a project, but now doing it at a program level. Some people decide, I've done the PMP, will I just go on and do the PgMP? And again, it's a big undertaking. It's very similar to the PMP, but done at the program level. So even the process is longer, but similar type approach. You have to do an application. You do the course with someone like ourselves, an approved provider. We give you some mock exams, you practice on those, and then you go on to do the real exam. So a very similar process. And the PMI are trying to slim this down at the moment because it was very time consuming. Because, even if I just give you one example of the difference, when you do your PMP, you have to come up with 200 words of a project description. When you do your PgMP, they want something like, give us 500 words on how you manage the governance on this, or give us 500 words on benefit realization on the program that you did. So again, the application is more robust, it's bigger. And I suppose the big criteria, is, you have to have 4 years of project and 4 years of program management experience. So if you've done your PMP already, you've probably given them 3. So all we do is we help you download your previous application, add a project into that. That gives you your 4 years project. And then we say, okay, tell us about the programs you have done. Now we help you write up the application because it is difficult. And sometimes it's a language, maybe again, that you need to get familiar with, comfortable with. But if you've been running programs, you get the grips with this very quickly. But we see a lot of people coming on the course to learn about program management, and then maybe after a year, they'd follow through and do the exam. but they might come on the program first to learn about program management and implement it and practice it in their organization. And then they're not trying to remember stuff, rote learn it for the exam. They've practiced it, they've understood it, and they say, my God, I'm a different character now than I was 12 months ago. I'm way stronger. Okay. So again, don't be rushing into exams. Don't be too worried about it. But again, the cost of it is more expensive than PMP as well. Why would you want the certification? I suppose really, I think hopefully I've answered that already. For many people, it's the next step up the ladder. They're sick of projects, they're sick of doing that. They want to move up a level, get talking to more senior people, be involved in bigger initiatives, be more responsible and accountable for bigger changes in their organization. Okay. I've talked about that briefly. Again, we'll send you the slides after and you can read up more on this, but you need 4 years of program management experience. But you can go back, I think it's, they say here 12, 15 years for this. So sometimes you might meet someone that has, 15, 20 years experience. Sometimes you meet someone with 8, 9 years, and that's what they've been involved in. And it's a case then of trying to understand, was it a program? How will this fit the PMI criteria? And again, we help you discuss that and talk your way through it. Again, it's on the PMI website. You would do all of this, but don't go submitting anything because you'll mess it up unless you talk to us first. Because again, it's important to take time away, because if you submit some crap, they're just going to send it back saying, look, this doesn't meet the requirement, then you've wasted more time. So it's often good to get your story right before you go submitting, and write it up on a whiteboard, write it on a bit of paper and say, these are my projects, these are my programs, I've written my descriptions, I've used the PMI language, I've answered the questions they've asked. And for a lot of people, writing up the PMP application could be an hour's work. Writing up the PgMP application could be a few days' work. So again, don't go rushing it and getting it wrong, thinking you're going to just get through this. The criteria is harder to meet. Okay. Same application process, as I said. You submit the application, you do the course, we give you access to mock exams. The main thing is that the PDUs are the same. So your PDUs you submit for PMP fulfill the requirement for PgMP. So it's not like you have to have a new set of PDUs for this. You do not. Okay. This is how the exam is done. It's 170 questions. It's a 4-hour exam, very similar to the PMP type approach. Number of questions per module. And again, our mock exams are set up exactly per this split. So as soon as you start doing any of your mock exams, we'll be able to tell you very, very quickly, what modules you're weak on, where are you struggling, etc., etc. So again, it's granular, and we can help you dissect it and say, focus on these modules. This is where you're falling down. Okay. I suppose, what do? We support people through the process, right? We've got a simple enough process for this. We've been doing it long enough. Done it myself. I've done my PgMP 10 years ago, actually, last month. Okay. And it wasn't for the faint-hearted, I'll put it to you like that. So again, don't go taking this on unless you are willing to follow through the work that's involved with it. But again, as I said, we help you with the application. We give you the mock exams. We give you support. Okay. Is there any questions? I think the main thing usually for people is just to understand what program management is and start to think about program management essentials as their first step. Usually then people progress on over time to do the certification, but the certification is a longer process, definitely. Okay, so hopefully I've given you some information today that you found somewhat interesting to yourselves. And if there's any questions there, I'll take them. Or if you want to reach out to me privately, if you don't want to ask a question here, you can feel free to reach out to me after as well. You'll find me, Seamus Collins, seamus.collins@velopi.com. Or find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk to you privately about your aspirations in this area as well. All right. Thank you, Mariella. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Seamus. If anyone needs any more info on this topic, like Seamus said, please go ahead and visit us at velopi.com. If you missed out on any part of this session, we will be sharing a recording with all of you in an email after the webinar, so be on the lookout for that if you weren't able to attend the full session. And it looks like we look good to go. We got a thank you. Awesome. And I'm so mindful of our time, so I will let us go. And thank you again, Seamus.
All right. See you soon, guys. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Alrighty. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.